AVENUE.B is where strategy meets design to create strategic, creative, and human solutions. We'll explore different avenues of human connection by understanding people emotionally, socially, and cognitively. Each episode shows you how to design, think, and lead with emotional intelligence, both in business and personal life. We'll equip you with the actionable frameworks and mindset to design brands people still believe in a world of disruption that changes faster than we can design. I'm Geena, and this is AVENUE.B. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Geena.
Lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to have our conversation.
Yes, me too. Today I'm here with Sara Arnell, global branding and marketing expert and former advertising CEO. With a talent for developing and revitalizing brands, she has worked with brands including Pepsi, Goop, Unilever, Jeep, and Chanel. And she's the founder and creator of SaltStone, a halo therapy device for respiratory wellness under the brand My Friend the Sea. She's also adjunct professor at Parsons School of Design, teaching brand strategy and strategic creativity. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you.
Today, we'll go more into your journey of creating a health and wellness brand that is under the practice of a almost 200-year-old practice.
Right.
And discuss how companies can apply this framework to build their own brand longevity by addressing universal human needs that sustain over several generations.
Right.
And before we go and dive into your product, SaltStone, I'd love to start with a more holistic and systemic perspective. So as strategists, we wrestle with a lot of ambiguity every day. We live in a VUCA world, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and that now transverses into BANI, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible, which means that systems are so fragile and we are bombarded with daily headlines of how AI is changing and how industries are almost collapsing or shifting into something. We can't trust the past anymore on this because we haven't had this experience yet. So the cause and effect of a single change are so disproportionate almost that, of course, it goes into our anxiety and inexplicability of what's happening. And somewhere in this mess, we're trying to design a brand.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, what is chaos shaped by in the brand world? And how can a brand use this chaos to create simplicity and design a creative direction through the mess?
Okay. Well, it's such a relevant question, right? Because we live in this world where everything's constantly shifting and changing and bumping into each other. And what was relevant or cool one day may not be the next, right? So it's a very hard media landscape to navigate. It's a very hard consumer preference landscape to navigate. You really have to pay a lot of attention, but at the same time, can you really pay enough attention, right? Because I think I read a data point somewhere recently that we are bombarded, if we're on our phones and on our media, with somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 messages a day from brands.
That's insane.
it's a huge amount that you don't even see half of them, right? They disappear before your very eyes. You're scrolling along and maybe something sticks and maybe something doesn't. So the chaos actually becomes something that you have to, I think, lean into, not reject.
Okay.
Because if you really understand that this is a chaotic world and you have to accept it, then you can better deal with it versus trying to say, listen, I don't want to live in that chaotic world. This is the world I want to live in. Well, it won't work.
I agree. I agree that successful brands are the ones who take complex data they can own and measure on a consistent basis and turn it into compelling, clear stories, and then ideally tie that into consumer identity and their personality. So a great example is Spotify. Spotify has 1 billion data points on what kind of mood you were in, what kind of songs and genres and podcasts you're listening to. And then they don't just take that complex data, they create a story. They give you a day list, they give you a sentimental shower playlist, they give you a Sunday morning playlist, they give you Spotify Wrapped, which was so successful that you now want to share Spotify Wrapped as part of like who you are. So the brand is representing
or maybe who you were.
Exactly.
Because Bing, right? It's all about a moment in time.
Yeah, who you were this year.
Yeah, exactly.
And it almost, like, for me, it was kind of humiliating this year. Yeah, every year I want to like become better or listen to cooler songs on Spotify because it represents who you are. But yeah, I think a blueprint that brands can really take in general is just take the complexity and the messiness, create a story and tie it to real people who are using the product, and then they will become so attached to your brand and never let you go because you're now part of them.
Well, this is why setting a foundation for your brand, though, is so important, because as everything's sort of swirling around you, you need a center, right? And the center of your brand is, what is your brand about? What are its values? What is its personality? Not even so much what its identity is, and hopefully we'll talk about that a little later, but what does it stand for and what does it do for people? And if you can't describe what your brand is supposed to do for someone, how it's supposed to make their lives easier, better, simpler, whatever it is, that should be your center point of like your grounding point or your foundation. And then you can just deal with the chaos of, now, how do I get my story out at this moment in time or to this particular audience? And brands always do more than one thing. And so you have the ability today to really parse your messaging really toward your specific audience. So one audience might see your brand as one way and another audience might see it for another reason. And so you don't have to be all things to everybody in this brand world. You can really kind of edit and select and market to people based on need states. And that's what people want. They want you to understand them.
That's true. We went into consumer identity a little, and you just mentioned brand identity. So I feel it fits. How does brand identity, how did it change throughout the centuries? If things are ever changing, how do you take a stance in the market and position yourself? It was very stagnant. Like normally you get a competitive landscape and you are the upper right quadrant and you stay there and you're exactly like this and better than this competitor. But things are changing so quickly that just taking a name or a position today can mean something entirely different tomorrow. So how do you go about designing a brand name or positioning in this ever-changing world?
Well, I'm actually less concerned than ever on like what would be typical corporate identity type practice. Sure, you need a brand name, but what you bring to that brand name is almost as important as the name itself. The personality you bring to it, the style you bring to it, and you have to have a brand name that's flexible. It has to be really kind of, I always say, solid in the middle and flexible around the edges. And even if you look at what Google does today, they have, you recognize it as a Google identity, but there's so many different variations of it. And I think that's really how brands need to function today in terms of identity. Identity needs to be more about what the brand stands for than how it looks.
Okay. You teach something called strategic creativity. Yeah. When I thought about that, to me, it's still kind of, in today's age, two very different sides of logic versus like wacky out-of-the-box ideas. So how do you unite great creative work while still hitting your performance strategy KPIs? How do you unite those with a brand?
I think the best strategists have a creative side and the best creatives have a strategic mind. And so the idea of this class, strategic creativity, was not to silo strategy and creativity as two separate two separate types of people or types of things to execute. I think they have to come together, because if you can't execute a strategy creatively, is it really a good strategy? It may look good on paper, but if the creative team can't bring it to life or can't figure out how to bring it to life, then it's not a good strategy if you can't execute it. I think that's a lot of times the issue with consulting or big consulting is they'll come up with a really great strategy that's based on data and based on research and based on this. And when they hand it off to a creative team, sometimes it's very hard to execute against it. So when you bring it together like left brain, right brain, you're working in tandem to come up with something that it has a point of view that can be expressed creatively.
Okay. This reminds me that I sometimes in my presentations, I give like brand activations at the end. And I've never had any touch points with experiential marketing. Like consultants often give like these random examples, but they don't really know if they work in the current market. So it's really important to co-create this with like an agency that's equipped to do this and to make pop-ups or
No, I agree. I think this idea of co-creating, co-creating between strategy and creativity is really important because in the end you want to come out with creative that is, on point for whatever the strategy needs to be, and you want a strategy that's able to be expressed creatively so people are interested in it and understand it.
Absolutely. I see here you brought your product.
I did.
Maybe we can have a little unboxing / origin story of how you came up with SaltStone under the brand MFTS, which stands for My Friend the Sea.
There it is.
That's the beautiful product that looks exactly like an Apple packaging.
Well, steal from the best.
Exactly.
So we'll do a little unboxing.
Yeah. And wow.
So this is a type of product that's called a halo generator.
Beautiful.
Is that in the right spot? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there it is. So this is a little machine that you put medical grade salt in. I can actually take it apart for you guys. You put medical grade salt. It grinds it up in this little chamber. Turn it on. And this is the dispensing nozzle. And the salt is ground into microscopic no water, just dry salt, and you breathe it in, and it becomes a respiratory detox.
That's amazing.
So the reason I created this was in 2018, I was diagnosed with chronic leukemia. Yeah. And what I was experiencing a lot was constant respiratory infections, respiratory distress, a lot of problems. And one of my doctors said, you can't just keep being on antibiotics nonstop, and you can't feel this bad nonstop. Try a salt room. And I did. And it was really a game changer for me. So I started to research it, right? Like I'm a brainstorm. What is this thing? Halo therapy.
Yeah.
Started researching it, started getting into it, and realized, you know what? This is a 200-year-old practice therapy that was doctor founded. It's been studied for clinical studies behind it for decades. And it's still used today. So
something must be
working, right? Something must be right. And then I looked at the downsides. You have to go to a place. It costs a lot of money. When you're sick, the last thing you want to do is get in a car and drive and make an appointment and drive someplace. And also, you don't want to sit in a room because they're usually more communal rooms, these salt rooms. You also don't want to sit in a room with other people that are sick.
No, really.
So it had some downsides to it. And so I decided to design one for the home. And again, I wanted to make it, but by the way, I just want to say with the new Pantone color that just launched, Cloud, trending. Anyway, I wanted to have something that, and I had a use case belief, that if you can keep a product out in your home and have it visible to you, that you'll use it. But if the product isn't designed for a home environment and you stick it under your bathroom sink or in a cabinet, then you forget about it and you don't use it. So we approached this as sort of wellness decor. And wanted to make it very sort of sculptural and contemplative. It's like 3 stones stacked on each other. And people always ask me if they can't remember the name of it. They say, what is that Zen-like object? And I'm, so I think the idea of it being sort of peaceful and contemplative is really, resonating. And the idea was just, it needs to be pretty enough and beautiful enough to keep out. If you see it, you'll use it.
Did you also say that the other competitors or the other solutions had like a home tent you had to build?
There was one, you had to sit in a pop-up tent.
Okay, at home.
At home, yeah. So there were other competitive devices for the home, but using them was a little bit more complicated. And we wanted something that was easy to use, right? Because we're busy. We're busy people. We don't want to have to pop up a tent in our living room or wherever and hook up a machine and then clean it up afterwards.
Also, this feels more luxurious and like wellness decor you actually want to see every day versus a tent building at home.
Yeah,
isn't.
No. And it works. Like no hate on the tent. The tent really works because you're sitting in an environment. So the idea of the tent was you're filling an environment with dry salt air and breathing. This is different. You don't have to fill a small room. This nozzle, which is patent pending, is designed to just dispense a very sort of tight, like, column of dry salt air right to your nose. Mm-hmm. So the difference between this and anything competitive is this dispenses it right to where you breathe it in versus filling up a room and sitting in it and breathing. And that was sort of the big design aha that we ended up with in this.
Also, you say that it's fixing your state of healthiness as a reliable guide to happiness.
Well, yes, right? Because there's a lot of things that make us happy that definitely are not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But you can pretty much count on, and I think there's probably a lot of data to back this up, that if the things that you're doing are making you healthier, are probably affecting your happiness in a positive way.
Yes, absolutely. I think we could even zoom this out more to like a continuity of a human need that sustains for over 200 years.
Yeah.
Which is respiratory wellness or wellness and health in general. And every product and service we desire or are interested in is always feeding into a very, very deep emotional or human need that we all have.
That's
so
right.
This could be relief
right.
or comfort or connection or hope or like the Maslow pyramid, like autonomy,
all of the above. Yeah.
Pride, whatever that, like, whatever you're not actually buying, you're not buying pride, but you're like buying a Rolex, or you're buying a product or service that represents what you believe it to represent.
Yeah.
And here, this is something I had to think about how other brands associate happiness with their brand because it doesn't bring it. So, for example, Coca-Cola or Red Bull associate their product that probably has minus utility with that sugar content, but associate it with a universal human need like exhilaration, happiness.
Right.
And that way they can sustain in the market because it's a continuity of human need and people really perceive it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I want to drink a Coke. I want to open happiness, which is their, I guess, tagline. And, you know, have that little sugar rush and that very familiar taste. I mean, familiarity is really so important to getting people to like a brand, to try a brand, to like a brand, and to feel happy about a brand, like this idea of likability. And so we actually built this into SaltStone. We wanted it to be a very likable, familiar form, like beach rocks, you know, stacked up on top of each other, or a cairn or something you find as wayfinding on a hiking trail. So absolutely.
Earlier this year, we talked about the traditional sales funnel and how the traditional funnel goes awareness, interest, consideration, purchase, and nobody in their right mind actually goes like, oh, I'm aware of Nike shoes and now I'm interested in Nike shoes and now I'm going to consider some Nike shoes. I'm going to purchase some Nike shoes. Like, we don't think that robotically. We're way more emotional human beings, and 95% of our purchasing decisions are subconscious. So what do you think of this traditional sales funnel in the current age?
It takes us back to your first question, right? We're living in a VUCA world. So there's nothing wrong with the sales funnel, but I just think it's broken for how people consume content and media today. They're bouncing around. Like you said, it's more like a loop. And that's why people invest in putting the same content out there so much, because eventually you'll come back to it or you'll see it again. And maybe not now, I'm busy. And then you move on and then you think about it and then it pops up again. And, timing is really important, when you see it, where you see it, and what mood you're in when you see it. So there's so many things to think about when you're putting communication out there to try to get some awareness on your product and get people to be interested, engaged, and interact with it, and in the end, purchase it. So it's more like this crazy kind of roller coaster loop versus a funnel.
Yeah, I agree. How do you integrate that roller coaster into SaltStone? And also we talked about having multiple target audiences.
Yeah. Which you can do, right? You can parse your audiences almost to the, very, very specific psychographic and demographics and give them the message that they want, which is what make people interested in a brand, is if they think sounds like it's right for me. So we can do that. But the roller coaster ride is, so here's one of the things that I've seen a lot. I think people that are working in branding and marketing, they kind of get sick of the messaging, like, oh, we already did that. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying, well, do it again.
Repeat,
because not everybody's seen it, right? Familiarity, yes. Like keep putting it out there. So there's the internal kind of boredom with like, oh, we talked about that. It's not old to the people out there that are just scanning it. It's actually the repetitive nature of marketing needs to be taken, I think, with a little bit more importance, because
with a grain of salt.
It's consistency, right? It's consistency. Yeah. Thank you for that.
No, I agree, especially going into more of a content world where with a brand you have to have a lot of data out there, especially for AI to parse in the future. So you have to have one clear message and
absolutely
and go at that message from 1,000 different angles.
Yeah.
For people to really, if they're asked about your brand, know what kind of keyword now is associated with it.
Because they won't ask about your brand, right? They're not asking AI, at least about SaltStone, the awareness is probably 0. But they may be asking about, how do I get respiratory relief? What's halotherapy? And so unless I have a lot of that messaging, right, built into this, and I'm very consistent on that, it won't get recommended.
So what kind of different target audiences did you attract with this? I know we talked about athletes.
So biooptimizers, biohackers. So salt therapy is really a well-known therapy in the elite athlete community. Coaches use it for their athletes. It oxygenates the blood and it opens up your airways, and it supports endurance and stamina. So it's really especially great for runners too. So they do that. Then there's what I call the respiratory aware, the people like me that are like fighting allergies, fighting congestion, their busy lives. I want my cold shortened by 3 days. This is something that can help. I don't want to take drugs. I don't want to be on antihistamines, and there's nothing wrong with them if you need them, but sometimes they make you foggy, and this is all natural. So you don't have a lot of the side effects that some of the over-the-counter medicine have. So we get people like that. And then we get, I just call them like the Goopies.
What are those?
The Goopies. The people that are just they're Goop aficionados. They are wellness centric. They want to bring wellness into almost every aspect of their life. They try everything that's new. And it's kind of part of, who they are, learning, exploring, and trying sort of new wellness modalities.
The pioneers of halotherapy.
I think the pioneers of halotherapy are going to be the bio-optimizers and biohackers.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
Once they understand the benefits from a proof
Right, getting
point
an
of
edge.
view.
This is a group that even the littlest edge is an edge, in performance. So this is a performance-oriented product, like a wellness and a health performance technology.
Perfect. Also earlier this year, we went through a neuro sprint together, which is a design sprint workshop rooted in neuroscience, which a colleague of mine and I at Parsons created. It's a very simple 4-step method that any brand could go through to connect with their customers and ultimately retain their customers in a sort of loop rather than a traditional sales funnel. So the 4-step method is motivation, attraction, connection, and retention. And each of these 4 have very crucial neurotransmitters that are elicited within the consumers. And it's not to kind of biohack and manipulate people. It's just to understand that we're very emotional and biological human beings who connect with a brand on an almost cellular level. And I would love to recap a little bit of our insights from this workshop. So the first step is motivation by dopamine. And dopamine is key in goal motivation and the anticipation of a pleasurable reward. So what we asked is, how might we create anticipation of a pleasurable reward with the brand? And this is especially important for brands with delayed gratification. So, for example,
or even, I want to say, subtle gratification, right? Like if you brush your teeth. Okay, if you haven't brushed your teeth for an entire weekend, you may get some really huge immediate gratification. But if you're like brushing and flossing every day, you may not notice that big a difference, right? So there's more of a subtle build in this, and that's kind of what this product does. So it's not like there's always this giant aha every time you use it.
No, absolutely. But dopamine is incredibly important for brands in general who are more on the delayed gratification side.
Yeah, absolutely.
For example, if you go to the gym every day, you won't have abs tomorrow,
right?
But you need to go for months or even
like
years to really reap the benefits of what your actual goal is.
Right.
But you still need an immediate hook, or can design an immediate hook that helps motivate kind of this pleasurable repeat behavior. So for SaltStone, we designed it as a loop of immediate nasal relief. So even though you need to use the product every day for months or years to really reap the benefits of respiratory health, you still get a little rush of dopamine when you
breathe the salt in.
Exactly. When you get the immediate relief, which goes back to the human need of relief.
I mean, it's feelable, right? I think that's what you're talking about. Like, you can feel something working.
Exactly.
And there's your dopamine rush.
Yeah. This could also be something you design in like a purchase UX flow, like a surprise discount code or something, but just something that people come back to, similar to Snapchat streaks. People come back every day, and it's dopamine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first step to kind of motivate people to even come to your brand.
Well, what I love when we did this workshop together, it was really enlightening for me. Excuse me. Because I thought it really helped reframe marketing goals or tactics from a much more human and psychological perspective.
Yes, absolutely. We really tried to feed in a lot of cognitive and behavioral studies and neuroscience studies and tie them into consumer behavior and brand relationships to really understand how people react to a brand-consumer relationship, even though it's not even a real person. We do connect on a very human and biological level with something that is represented by a brand.
Listen, the best brands have an emotional core, right? The foundation is how does it make me feel in multiple ways, like literally and sort of more figuratively. So it all makes sense what you're doing.
Then the second step we went through is attraction by adrenaline. So we want to attract customers and make a product exciting and surprising. So you're already motivated towards the brand, but now you're becoming attracted towards it by some sort of surprise or a new memory. So adrenaline is released during states of heightened alertness. It's normally for fight and flight responses, but in consumer behavior, mild adrenaline makes experience feel more exciting and more memorable. So what Red Bull, for example, did was the space jump.
Yeah.
It was kind of, everyone was watching the same thing at the same time, and very like adrenaline was rushing through them. So the question you ask is, how might we make a product exciting and surprising without diluting the wellness aspect in this case? Which is kind of tricky if you want to be a relaxing wellness brand.
Right.
But you could still, for example, go into target audiences like athletes and have a campaign, breathe like an athlete.
That's right.
Exactly.
That was your headline. I was like, I love this.
Breathe like an athlete, like have an altitude training with this product. Like instead of altitude training, be at the advantage if you're training for your marathon or whatever.
Right.
So just having like a surprising factor, especially if people see a product like this, they see spa and wellness. They don't necessarily see altitude training.
Correct.
So anything that's like a shock or surprise factor there can factor into attraction for your brand. The third step is connection by oxytocin. Oxytocin is a emotional bonding hormone that also is released when you hug someone for 20 seconds or when you pet your dog. But also when you think of your favorite brand, you also release oxytocin. So your brand uses oxytocin to make customers trust you, psychological safety, and make it safe enough for you to share the brand with other people. So what you ask there is, how do you create a value-based community and psychological safety? What we talked about here was creating your founder story.
Yeah.
Transparency builds trust. Talking about your own struggles builds trust. It builds proof that it works. It builds human connection with you yourself. And if the founder is the brand, people immediately connect and trust the product as well. But also, we talked about coining a phrase in the English language similar to Ubering or Googling.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm salting.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it could just
can I just say this is strategic creativity right now.
Yeah.
Breathe like an athlete. We're salting. This is the essence of strategic creativity, right? You're thinking very strategically about the product, and you're thinking about how to bring it to life creatively in ways that will help drive emotional resonance.
Exactly. Wow. And you also talked about Club Felix.
Oh yeah.
That's the inventor of salt therapy.
The original founder of salt therapy was a doctor in Poland named Felix, and I'm probably going to destroy the pronunciation.
I just said
of
Club
his,
Felix because I have
his
no
last
idea
name,
what
but Felix Bukowski.
Bukowski.
Anyway, apologies to Felix. But so he was the one who noticed in Poland, he was a medical doctor, that the salt miners in Poland weren't getting sick as much as the rest of the people. They weren't having any respiratory issues. They weren't getting the flu. So he started studying that. And then over the years, it became studied and modernized and really part of a very active respiratory wellness practice.
That's amazing.
So Club Felix was like, it's fun.
It's fun. And also this, like telling this story
Mm-hmm.
combined with a modernly modernly introduced wellness brand creates an emotional connection with that story, and also with the fact that it's a 200-year-old practice, and that it works. And in a world where nobody trusts anything anymore, especially new products,
that's right,
an old story like that or tradition really helps with believing in something.
I mean, like I think you said it before, if it's been around for 200 years, there's something going right.
Exactly. Then the fourth step is retaining your customers. Retention by serotonin. So serotonin is involved in long-term well-being and behavioral stability, meaning you're taking rational cognitive choices and not making impulsive choices on the way to a rational goal that you want to achieve. So going back to the gym example, if your goal is longevity and health, you are taking rational choices every day to go to the gym, but also to have a healthy diet or whatever, and to not eat a donut or that would be the behavioral stability and kind of making a long-term habit commitment to something. Right. And what we really are doing is we're taking a brand and weaving it into daily habits in the long term to create on the way towards a personal goal. So what you ask is, how might we make our product a daily habit on the journey towards a personal goal? To not manipulate people, but really support them in what they actually want. So for SaltStone, we talked about habit stacking. Maybe you want to go into that a little.
So again, part of the whole idea, like, it's small, right? This is, I think, 7 inches long and 7 inches high. It's like the size of a little mini iPad. It has a very small footprint. And part of the idea of making it this small was so it could fit on your bedside table, or fit on your bathroom counter, or fit where you're doing other things. And so it can be, so you can be in your bathroom, it could be on the counter, you could be brushing your teeth or washing your putting on makeup or doing your morning routine, and have this pointed at you and still breathe and get the salt in. I also want to say it's really good for your skin too.
Really?
Salt on your skin. It's
like at the beach.
At the beach. It's great for psoriasis and acne and just smooth skin. So it has other benefits aside from respiratory therapy. So, but it's really designed to let you just work it right into whatever your routine is, not have to stop and add another routine.
I really agree, especially if we take into account that you're always marketing towards a consumer with a full schedule and a full life. And they're already using tons and tons of products, especially the ones interested in wellness. Right. So you are essentially squeezing your product into a full life. Yeah. And you have to take that into consideration, that the world doesn't revolve around the product that you're trying to market. So something we talked about was also like putting it on while Netflix and Salt.
Right. That's right.
And just using like... Also, again, you look at a wellness product and you do not think of Netflix. But if you start understanding what a consumer does every day, and if like what goes into an evening routine, just expanding a little and seeing what do they do. Could this be part of skin care, or could this be part of Netflix and winding down? Could this be while working?
Right. It is very relaxing. I mean, the air that comes out of it, it's very gentle, it's very relaxing, and you're breathing, right? And you're breathing deeply, which is something that really helps to calm down your nervous system in general. So it does, it could be Netflix and Salt versus Netflix and chill. Isn't that what they say now? Yeah.
I love looking into these like campaign ideas. And it's also like breathe like you're at the beach forever.
Yes, exactly.
And who doesn't want that?
Which is sort of where we got the name of the company, which is My Friend the Sea, because a lot of this was inspired by, you always feel so good when you're at the beach. You know, you breathe better, you can work out harder, you're never congested, you can sleep better. If you're not congested and you're using this, you can sleep better. So
that's amazing. I need it. So that was kind of recapping our neuro sprint
Yeah.
and using those 4 steps, motivation, attraction, connection, retention, really helps designing a brand that is not only pleasurable, but exciting and creates a value-based community and creates long-term habits towards their own personal goals.
And that's part of the loop, right? This is not a funnel, right? We're not going back to funnel land. This is part of that loop. And it really, what I really loved about this workshop with you is that it really allowed you, as somebody who was trying to, I want people to know about this brand and how do I do it? And it's taking the idea of the mood and the mindset, the time of day, and the emotional state someone's in. So, for instance, if you were going to try to market to someone early in the morning, you could probably guess that they're maybe really busy. They're probably very rushed. They may not be really focused because they're trying to get dressed and get ready and get out the door. And they're maybe feeling a little anxious because they don't want to be late. So if you take all those factors into consideration, then you can create the right type of marketing to that person. It probably has to be brief, and it probably has to be funny, and it probably has to just, fit into whatever mood they're in and what they're doing. You have to fit into someone's life. No one is going to bring a product into their life if it doesn't integrate seamlessly.
I always say something really similar. I don't like to say product market fit. I like to say brand life fit.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
How do you fit into someone who already has a full life, and how do you market that in ways that they feel understood?
Product market fit it's important because you want to make sure there's a need out there and there's a market for it. That's sort of your upfront research. And I think once you've said, there's a need for this, you need to go right to the consumer.
Yeah. We also talked about attention versus resonance. So in this world where everything's moving into more data, more content, creating more attention, does attention and content win, or does consistency, value, resonance, quality win?
So it doesn't have to be either or, does it? Right? Because if you have that solid core for your brand, that solid foundation of who you are, what your values are, what you stand for, you can then participate in the craziness if you want in ways that make sense for your brand. I think what resonates with people is brands being really true to who they are and not trying to trend jack a moment or jump on the bandwagon of something that's sort of getting a lot of media attention, especially if it doesn't make sense for the brand. It just feels like, they're trying really, really hard. But if it works for who your brand is and you can participate in something that's happening in media naturally, authentically to who you are as a brand, great. If not, walk away and keep putting your message out there.
Yeah. Do you have an example of how a brand could use, I'm thinking of this one blackout during a Super Bowl where everyone honestly I don't know if this is a good example because I don't have enough data in my head, but there was a blackout during a Super Bowl and a lot of brands immediately, I think Jack Daniels or Oreo, really immediately posted something about blackout in a funny way, and it only fits if your brand is humorous and quick and spontaneous. Right. Otherwise, it doesn't fit.
Right. No, exactly. It's if you can fit into that moment, go ahead, but it has to be true to who your brand is.
No. Do you have any actionable frameworks that brands outside of wellness industries could use to really continue to address human needs that sustain across generations? I know we talked about, this is wellness again, but you talked about Jolie skin.
I'm obsessed with the Jolie shower filter because I think what Jolie did was made you think about a problem that you didn't really know existed. But now that you know how bad chlorinated water can be for your hair and skin, they took something that was a piece of hardware in your shower and they turned it into a wellness device that, you kind of have to have. And I think they did such an amazing job getting people to focus on issues, right, that happen with your hair and skin by having all these chemicals pour over you.
Do you think the root cause starts with you being an expert as a brand in finding out this chlorine problem exists, or looking into the user first?
I always think there's a reason why, like, I don't think the founders I don't know the founders of Jolie, but I doubt they were sitting around scheming, right, on
like what could we
on
design
how to,
for the shower?
Yeah, what can we do for the shower? And
Yeah.
I think they probably had a data point. It could have been as easy as a conversation, like, and came up with this. I think everything really successful, and Jolie is really successful, starts because it answers a need that exists that somebody just hasn't gotten around to answering yet, for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe the timing wasn't right, or maybe it wasn't such an issue. Like, again, in our quickly evolving world of issues, hair health, scalp health, it's really on the radar of so many people now. So it is a topic that people are actually talking about. Hair shedding, hair's falling out. It's for women that just had a baby, their hair falls out all the time is one of the big issues. I know that. My daughter just had a baby. Like,
I know.
It's an issue.
You're a granny.
I am a granny. So it's an issue. So things start to come up. And I think this company, really innovative, saw a human need. Like, I never would have designed SaltStone if I didn't think there wasn't a human need for it. A real gap in the market, but a gap for consumers in taking care of their respiratory health. I think I read also something like most respiratory issues are mitigated by sort of more at-home solutions. And again, who wants to go out when you're like so sick with a cold? So there's needs on so many levels for a product like this. And I think the same thing for Jolie.
Do you think brands will be successful more in addressing real human needs because I think of a lot of brands that are creating superficial needs and trying to squeeze in everywhere, or just trying to sell? And how can the consumer really understand what brand really has genuine customer care and customer consideration versus the brands that just want your money?
So I'll talk about Jolie again, right? One product. Maybe it comes in a couple colors, but it's basically one product. It's not like they're iterating and creating all this stuff and trying to upsell you to something else. And maybe they did an ad for Thanksgiving that I loved.
What did they do?
They took turkey in a pot with all the trimmings and put it in the shower and had the shower water fill up the pot with the turkey that they were cooking for Thanksgiving or boiling. And I was like, what an amazing visual demonstration of how pure the water is that now comes from your shower.
That's really good.
I loved it.
That's memorable,
yeah.
Actually.
Talk about resonance.
Yeah. Do you have any last takeaways of building brand longevity across generations, really targeting human needs or resonating?
Oh. I mean, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Target human needs. And even target's too hard a word. Deliver or gift. I always feel like this is something that you really need, that you've been wanting to appear on the market and solve so many problems and issues. It's almost like a gift, like put a product out there that people have been waiting for, that maybe they don't even know they've been waiting for it. But once they have it, like, they can't live without it.
Well, Sara, thank you so much for being here. It's always lovely talking to you about all things branding, marketing, advertising. And yeah, I am definitely going to get a SaltStone. And I really wish all the best for you, your brand, your grandson.
Thank you.
Yeah, all your future endeavors.
And by the way, you're going to have to wait just a little bit for SaltStone because we did sell out. We won a really beautiful design award. We were Wellness, Health, and Hero Technology at 2025.
That's amazing.
But more to come.
Absolutely. Maybe different colors as well.
Maybe. Thank you, Geena.
Thank you.